Hello again, everyone. This is episode number 9 of Wired Up Retro, and today we're covering controller add-ons for generation number 5, PlayStation generation. It's also known as the N64 and Saturn and PlayStation generation. So we're going to be covering a number of items you can add on to your controllers to enhance those controllers and make them extra special. So, we'll just plow right into this. During the days of PlayStation, there was a point in time when the regular PlayStation controller wasn't good enough, and the company that was behind the PlayStation, Sony, decided to put analog joysticks into the controller. And a lot of people didn't have the dual analog pad, and they just were stuck with their old PlayStation controller. And a company that is called Z Products developed a product that you put on top of the controller to create instead of using the directional pad, you could actually add a joystick to the directional pad. And it's basically clipped on with a rubber strap. And when you bought this product, it came with this rubber strap that goes all the way around the controller. Unfortunately, after a number of years, these things break very easily. And so you have to go out and buy like a kitchen rubber glove and cut it into this shape, and then you can actually mount it. That's what I did on this. This is actually the Z Products controller, which is basically a knockoff of the original PlayStation controller. It's the exact same shape and size. And so they had the Z Products connector and little joystick tabs that you could put on top. You can trade those joystick tabs out. This one's kind of like a little mushroom shape. This one kind of looks like the Nintendo64 top. It's kind of, they're trade outable. So it's kind of a nice little item for people who didn't want to invest the extra, who knows, 40 or 50 bucks back then for this kind of controller and just wanted to have their thumbstick on their old controller. So it's kind of one of those things that you probably won't ever want these days because, they've made thumbsticks analog for a reason. This was just a digital accessory as opposed to allowing for analog action on your controller. The companies behind this, I believe Innovation made one of these. This is the 8-in-1 color multi-stick. Actually, this is the Innovation product. So there were a number of companies behind this. One of them put Midway on the mount for it, and others, some of them didn't. And back when I was a youngster, I had tried to put one of these on this, but I noticed that the analog sticks got in the way. So I clipped off part of the plastic and added a little wire here to it and put the joystick in the center, and lo and behold, this actually could work on a dual analog pad. So you can have not just two thumbsticks, but you can have a third up here, which is kind of unique. But that's what I did just for fun back then. The dual analog pad is kind of hard to find these days. This controller, it doesn't have any vibration inside. When they came out with a dual shock shortly after releasing this product kind of went away. So that's why you don't find these very often. And it's unique in that it's a little bigger than the regular DualShock controller. It's also got indented thumbsticks that are hard plastic as opposed to the slightly rubber-topped DualShock, which had more convex dome-like thumbsticks. So yeah, this is definitely a unique breed. And for people with larger hands, I kind of like the size of this quite a bit. All right, let's move on. I wanted to talk a little bit about the DualShock's Space Vest. And this looks like pretty much comes straight from Asia. And there's a lot of English on the back with a unique explanation of how this works. But it's basically one of these things where you have a vest you put on, you plug it into a special box, and you plug your controller into that box, which then is connected to your PlayStation 1 system. And it vibrates when the controller would vibrate. So it's just designed to give your body that rumbling effect. And there was another product that was made by Newbie called the Newbie Reality Vest, or the Rumble Vest. It was made for both PlayStation 1 and Nintendo64, and it's a competitor of the Space Vest, but it basically does the same thing. And it's got a unique little how you plug there's a phone plug kind of thing that plugs into the unit. So it's a little different than the Space Vest, but it does the same thing. So yeah, it's kind of fun for playing games like racing games, you know, where you're crashing into walls and you kind of feel it in your body. And even games where you're shooting and, you know, getting shot. It might be good for that kind of thing. All right, so let's move on. There's another product that's made by Innovation that I wanted to mention here. This is called the multi-port controller selection box. And there are multi-port selection boxes that are just specifically designed to allow you to play multiplayer games. But this is a little different. This one you plug into your PlayStation, and you can plug multiple controllers, 4 of them in here, and then you can select which controller you want to use. So it's kind of nice for people who have many controllers. You know, if you were like, I'm in the mood to use my steering wheel, you might select the port number 1 controller. But if you've got a regular, dual shock on the other, you could select that for other games. So, if you have different types of controllers, it allows you to just pick the controller, and you don't have to keep plugging and unplugging from your game system. So I kind of like that. There's also another one that's unique. This is called the Mad Catz Wrist Rumbler, and this controller add-on enables you to get rumbling from controllers like this one that don't rumble innately. So you basically plug this into that, and then that gets plugged directly into your system. You tie this around your wrist. It's got a strap. And whenever the game wants the controller to rumble, instead of the controller rumbling, your wrist rumbles, okay? And Mad Catz was the one that innovated and came out with this initially. And then, of course, the copycat Innovation came out with their version, which is called the Shock Pack. But it's basically, they're all the same. All right, and let's see here. Another controller add-on came when the Dreamcast was released. And also the N64 had these as well. This is kind of copying N64, but this controller add-on has a screen built in and a little joystick, little D-pad on the front. So you could actually play little mini games. This is basically used as a save game pack. You can also play football games and look at this little mini screen to see things that are going on for your play calls, and no one else will see that, and that's kind of an innovative aspect of the Dreamcast controller. And I don't believe there was anything like that made for the Nintendo 64. Their packs were just basically designed for memory card use or rumble use, and some of these actually have capabilities to do both rumble and memory. I have a few of these. It just comes in the bottom of the controller like that. And so these controller add-ons, some of them require batteries. Well, I think some of them do. So put your batteries in there. All right, that's N64 for you. And there's another one I want to show you that has to do with the Dreamcast, and this is called the Comfort Cover. And I actually have this in the package. I haven't actually taken it out because I'm like, well, maybe someday this will be valuable, because I had never encountered it before. But it's just a neoprene super grip cover is how they describe it. And you wrap it around your PlayStation. It's fitted, wrap it around your Dreamcast controller. It's fitted so that it'll feel good in your hands. So once you get this on, maybe if you're sweating or whatever, it'll absorb the sweat. Or if you just like more of a cushy cover and you're not sweating, but you just want more cushiness, this will provide that. All right. The Dreamcast is actually not in Generation 5 of video game consoles, but it was in Generation 6. If any of you might be wondering why I'm talking about certain Dreamcast controller add-ons today, it's because of some similarities with the N64 controller add-ons that I'd like to point out. Obviously, the Nintendo 64 had the first Rumble Pack, and the Dreamcast Rumble Pack came out afterwards with the benefit of not needing batteries. Another add-on which could go into the controller memory cartridge slot had to do with specific video games designed to be used with a microphone. For the N64, we had the microphone with VRU, the voice recognition unit, which was used with Hey You Pikachu. And for the Dreamcast, we had the mic attachment, which was used with Seaman or Alien Front Online. Both games allowed for voice recognition. But I have to point out here, they weren't the first to accomplish that. Voice recognition initially was done on a home computer made by Texas Instruments, the TI-99-4A, in 1983. This peripheral was made by Milton Bradley. They made the MBX expansion system, which worked with specific games designed for it. And this device was truly ahead of its time, and the games proved to be quite fun. The video game crash of 1984 put an end to this peripheral, and TI stopped their production of the computers around the same time. But regardless, the N64 didn't actually have voice recognition first. Alright, so let's move up a little bit into the PlayStation generation, and I did want to show you just a couple of different PlayStation and Saturn multi-taps, since those are add-ons which you can use, giving you the capability to have a lot of friends over and enjoy your video games. So here I'm showing you some images of different ones. There's a Bomberman multi-tap for the Saturn. It's kind of unique. All right, so onwards, we're going to talk again a little bit more about the PlayStation. Another item that I did want to bring up here is a joystick, basically a fighting game stick for the PlayStation 1, and it's also designed to work on the Saturn. It's called the Innovation Virtual Stick, and it has a replacement joystick that lets you take out one joystick and put in a different type. So it's kind of a little add-on for a joystick that was made back in the mid-90s for fans of fighting games who like different kinds of joysticks. All right, onwards. We're going to go back and talk a little bit about PlayStation 1 once again here. This is an innovation product. They sure made a lot of unique products. This is the Racing Fighting Foot Pedal, okay? So for fans of racing games, you could take your PlayStation controller and use the D-pad or the thumbstick for the steering, but you could hook this up to it and connect it all to your PlayStation, and you would have yourself the ability to have a gas and a brake on the feet as opposed to the gamepad. So I really I think this is a unique product. I don't understand how anybody would want to play a fighting game using foot pedals, but I guess if you have your left foot on the left pedal and right foot on the right, you might be able to play Tekken or Tekken 2 and maybe be able to get a little bit more realism. Every time you want to attack someone with your left foot, you press the left foot. So yeah, the Innovation Racing Fighting Foot Pedal is certainly unique. And another one I wanted to mention here was a product that came out during the GameCube and the PlayStation 3 generation. And I'm just bringing this up because if you own the SuperPad 64 Plus, which is essentially a MakoPad PC controller designed for the Nintendo 64, a lot of people like this controller because it's got everything on the left side of the controller as opposed to the Nintendo 64 regular controller where you have to switch handles to go from D-pad to analog stick. So on this controller, you don't have to switch. But it's a little lopsided. You could say this is an asymmetric controller and very unique. It has a unique feel to it. I kind of like it. Some people just say this is not for me, but for me, I kind of like it on my N64. But one thing I really didn't like about it was the way they made this thumb pad on the analog stick. It's so slippery. Your fingers just slip right off of it. It's actually got quite a bit of tension, which for N64 games like Turok can be very helpful in aiming. But if your finger's slipping off of it half the time, or if it's just not exactly stable, it's not great. So what I did was I took a gel tabs product that they came in a pack where they had 2 gel tabs for your PlayStation 2 controller or your GameCube controller. You could use one on that. And then for the very tiny GameCube yellow stick, you would take the teeny tiny gel tabs thing that came packaged in with it. Well, this actually fits pretty well on the SuperPad 64, so you just have to squiggle it into position, and once it's placed there, it enables you to get a really good grip on this N64 controller stick. So I do like that, and if you ever do happen to find gel tabs on eBay or online somewhere for sale on Amazon or whatever, you might want to pick that up just for that. And I've used it on my Atari 5200 using an adapter that I described in episode number 1 to use my Mako PC pad on my Atari 5200. So having that that gel tabs on it makes it a little bit more comfortable. All right, so that's basically the episode for today. We covered generation number 5, and we'll go on to PlayStation 2 and the Xbox and the GameCube generation on our next episode, which will be coming up shortly. We shouldn't have a big time gap between these the next couple of episodes, actually. And they're a little bit shorter, and the content is pretty heavy, so we got all sorts of information for you, people who want to look back into the history of video gaming. So that's what we're all about here at Wired Up Retro. All right, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next couple of weeks. Have a good one.